I love words. And in my line of work, which is marketing, to my delight, I get to write for hours on end. In a sense, you could say that I get to play with words for a living. But I have been fascinated by words since I was a child. I come from a family of translators, so I've always loved discovering the meanings, the nuances, the connotations that words have. In fact, I like words so much that I read the dictionary for fun. It's true, I'm a total word nerd. But the day in which I discovered the real power of words was June 16 of 2013 at 5:30 in the morning. My husband and I had just been married the day before, and we were standing at the airport counter on our way to Southeast Asia for a magical honeymoon, or so I thought. The agent says, "Good morning, tickets and passports, please." My husband pulls out the tickets, and I reach into my bag for the passports. And the passports aren't there. The passports, they're not there. And I can't begin to tell you my anguish and my heartache when I realized that I had lost the passports. They were my responsibility. All our visas were in them. And I'm saying to myself, I'm such an idiot. I'm the world's biggest idiot in lights. Oh my God, this is not happening. I can't believe this. I've managed to ruin our honeymoon. Totally ruined it. And now, of course, probably our marriage too. I don't know what I'm gonna do. I'm such a loser. It's like I can never have been able to do anything right. I got passed up for a promotion at my first job. I dropped out of my piano lessons, so I can't even play chopsticks. Seriously, you sit me up there, I can't do anything. And I never made the honor roll past kindergarten. And as I am frantically, desperately pulling everything out of my bag to double and triple search for those passports, my wallet pops open. And I see this photo that I always carry with me of my sister and I when we were little. I'm the one on the left. And I look at it, and something inside me says, whoa, wait a minute. You are calling this little girl an idiot and a loser? Oh my God, I was horrified. It dawned on me right there that if I had this precious little girl in front of me, I would never, ever talk to her like that. And not just because she's a little girl, but because I would never talk to anyone in the world like that. But if it's not okay to talk to anyone like that, and I would never do it, why was it okay to talk to me that way? And since when did I give myself permission to be in an abusive relationship with myself? So now, let me ask you, have you ever talked to yourself that way? Perhaps not as harshly, but can you think of a time in which you made a huge and painful mistake and you got really angry at yourself? And next thing you know, you're not being kind to your mind. Anyone? Yeah, look around. I think we all do. And we cut ourselves some slack because we say, it was just the heat of the moment. And we dismiss it. But why, when it's someone else's mistake and we're in that heat of the moment, do we find it in our hearts to offer help and solutions with care, with respect, with compassion, and in the most positive spirit, so that we can just move on and forget about it, or even laugh it off? because that's exactly what my husband did for me that day. As I was putting the stuff back in my bag and about to cry, he pulled his arm around me and said, "Don't worry, honey. I'm not upset. It's just the passports. It's not like you lost my PlayStation." He's right there in the audience. And as I am laughing hysterically, I realized that my husband's humor prevented my thoughts from going down a very deep and dark hole. And because when I make those kinds of mistakes, my mind tends to go down that route, for quite some time I had been doing, quote unquote, thought experiments to try to figure out two things. Number one, how to stop my mind from going wild, because it would always end up in absurd places, like the honor roll. And number two, how to focus my attention to get more of what I wanted and less of what I didn't, within my control, of course, because this is not magic. So that tiny spark of humor sparked in me a huge aha moment. And that is when I found the formula for a better mental space. And a better mental space, for me, simply means my own ability to focus on what I can do in any given situation, big or small, so that I can get the best possible outcome for myself and for everyone involved. Now, I have been using the formula ever since, and it has definitely helped to pull me out of those negative mental spaces when I go there. But curiously enough, by virtue of pulling me out of there, it has also pushed me into focusing my attention and getting more of what I want and less of what I don't. So I am here to share with you the formula today, in hopes that it's as helpful to you as it is to me. And this is the formula. It looks and works just like an equation, and it's made up of words, thoughts, actions, and outcomes. And the concept behind it is super, super simple, but it's absolutely powerful. In any or in every single circumstance, the words you tell yourself ignite and fuel the thoughts that then inspire and trigger the actions you take, resulting in the outcomes that you get. So it's really important that we choose our words wisely and carefully, because they have the power of predicting the outcomes that we get. Now, you don't have to believe me about this, but let me just give you an example. Raise your hand if you have a friend or if you know someone who is perpetually down on their luck when it comes to love. Yeah, we all seem to have the same friend, right? You have probably heard these folks complain using words like, "Oh, why do I always have such bad luck? Why do I always date losers? Why can't I find the right person?" And have you noticed that many times, some of them, after a painful breakup, they end up with a new person with similar traits to the one before? Yeah. And that is because, that is not bad luck or just mere coincidence. That is because the equation is not linear, but it's actually circular. Because the words you use to interpret the outcome become the words that you feed the cycle again. And here's the thing. If you tell yourself the wrong words, the equation turns into a vicious cycle. The human mind has anywhere between 60 and 70,000 thoughts a day, and 90% of those thoughts are repetitive. 90%. So you can imagine what happens when you tell yourself the wrong words all day long. Now, the good news is that you can definitely interrupt that cycle and make it go from a vicious cycle into a virtuous cycle by choosing the right words. The key then to interrupting and breaking that cycle is awareness of your words at the outcome. That is when you can renew your words. And when you do, please tread carefully and wisely. Because in case you were wondering where emotions fit into all this, emotions come attached to the words you tell yourself. So choose words with plenty of promise and possibility. Choose words that feel authentic to you and that resonate with you. Choose words that take you where you want to go. And let love and kindness lead the way. Because every single word you choose with its corresponding emotion, it's going to multiply exponentially as it goes through the equation. By now, I hope that you can see why, when you choose better words, your outcomes improve and you feel much better. But, and there's a big but, I recognize that this is so much easier said than done. Just ask me how I know. Before I met my husband, my love life was horrendous. So I decided to do one of those thought experiments that were the precursors to the formula because nothing else seemed to work. The problem? A series of failed relationships. And the common denominator? Yours truly. So if something had to change, that something was me. And I decided to give it a try and change my words. So instead of saying, oh, I'll never find anyone, I started to use better words and to tell myself things like, I'm open, I'm willing, and I'm ready to find my ideal soulmate. And those words, just that shift in energy, allowed me to think with intentionality. So now every single one of my actions around dating had that same intention. And that was to meet the man that I could consider my loving, caring, sharing life partner. But for that to happen, I had to change to also be able to be considered as someone who could be a loving, caring, sharing life partner. And the outcome, well, that was not immediate by any means. But eventually, after changing many words, many thoughts, and many actions, something shifted in me. And to make a long story short, I found the love of my life. By now, you know that we got married. He continues to make me laugh hysterically every day. And this year, we're celebrating our 10th anniversary. Oh, thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And by the way, just in case you were curious, that fateful day at the airport, we retraced our steps. We found the passports. Yes. And we went on to have the most wonderful honeymoon trip. And while this story has a happy ending because we found the passports, it has an even happier ending for me because that day at the airport was when I was able to piece together the formula. And the formula has allowed me to simply harness the power of words whenever I need them to pull me out of those mental spaces and be in a better mental space. But more importantly, it allowed me to renew my relationship with myself. So I am here to tell you that words matter. Big or small, whatever change you want to make in your life, it starts with the power of your words. And whether you remember the equation or not, it will happen in your life anyway. So just remember that when you talk to yourself, you're also listening to yourself. And that reflects in your outcomes. I invite you to choose and rigorously scrutinize the words you say to yourself. Because you can either choose the words that will build a beautiful, bright future for you, or choose the ones that won't. It's up to you. Choose wisely. Thank you.